After 9 years of putting my education on hold to take care of my sick mom and support my family, I heard my brother call me a loser at his graduation. This time, I decided to put myself first and walked away. I'm Lisa, a 29-year-old woman, and for nearly a decade, I've faced a challenging family situation. My journey began as a 20-year-old college sophomore where I was pursuing a degree in psychology. Motivated by a therapist who supported me through my father's death in my childhood, I had aspirations of becoming a clinical psychologist. Academically successful and surrounded by a tight-knit circle of friends, I was even contemplating an overseas study program the following year. However, my life took an unexpected turn when my mother, Sandra, age 52, was diagnosed with a severe chronic illness. Sandra's condition was a rare autoimmune disorder that severely affected her joints and muscles, causing her continuous pain and significantly reducing her mobility. The doctors described it as a progressive disease with treatments available but no definitive cure. At that time, my brother Tom, then 15, was immersed in the typical teenage world of mood swings and video games, largely oblivious to the gravity of our mother's health issue. Having lost our father to a tragic car accident when Tom was just an infant, our family had always been tightly knit, with our mother working diligently as a legal secretary to support us. Her illness meant she could no longer sustain her role, which had profound implications for our family's financial stability. Faced with this reality in my dorm room, surrounded by psychology textbooks, I made the heart-wrenching decision to put my academic and professional dreams on hold. The day I visited the registrar's office to withdraw from college remains vivid in my memory. The academic advisor urged me to consider part-time study or a leave of absence. However, I knew such measures wouldn't suffice. Our immediate needs were financial stability and comprehensive care for our mother, responsibilities too substantial for Tom to manage at his age. Consequently, at just 20, I started working full-time as a receptionist at a local accounting firm. The job offered minimal pay, but provided the steady income we desperately needed. I moved back home, not only to economize on living expenses, but also to support Mom and Tom during this tumultuous period. This marked the beginning of a new chapter, one defined by sacrifice and resilience in the face of our family's ongoing challenges. The initial months after I left college were some of the toughest. Transitioning from the intellectually stimulating world of academic lectures and group studies to mundane tasks like answering phones and filing paperwork was a stark contrast. In the evenings, I dedicated my time to helping Mom with her physical therapy and ensuring Tom stayed on track with his homework. Countless nights, I lay awake, wrestling with doubts about the sacrifices I had made. Despite the challenges, I persevered, buoyed by the belief that this situation was only temporary. I hoped that once Mom's health stabilized and Tom grew older, I would return to my study. Clinging to this hope became harder as the years slipped by, but I gradually advanced from a receptionist to an administrative assistant. This progression brought a slight improvement in our financial situation, allowing us to manage our household expenses and Mom's medical care. I took pride in ensuring Tom had all he needed: school supplies, clothing, and funds for field trips, endeavoring to give him the chances I had missed. When Tom graduated from high school and secured college admission through scholarships and financial aid, my heart swelled with pride. The day he received his acceptance letter, we celebrated with ice cream, a nostalgic nod to our parents' tradition of celebrating our academic achievements. However, as Tom embraced college life, my own aspirations continued to be deferred. No further education, no travel, no vibrant social life. My existence revolved solely around Mom's care and Tom's support. As my former classmates shared their milestones, graduations, career advancements, and travels, I struggled with feelings of bitterness and envy. Yet, there were also moments of joy that reminded me of the value of my sacrifices. On good days, Mom and I would watch classic films, recapturing some of our old routine. And when Tom called from college, brimming with excitement over academic successes or new friendship, it soothed the sting of my own paused dream. However, as time passed, a growing sense of being underappreciated began to weigh on me, making me question whether my continual sacrifices were truly acknowledged. Mom's health had reached a plateau of stability, yet she remained heavily dependent on care. Despite the enormity of my sacrifices, she often lamented the difficulty of her life without recognizing the extent of my contributions. Her comments stung, suggestions that I could do more, or comparisons to other, more devoted daughters. While these remarks hurt, I attempted to shrug them off and focus on the positives. Tom's demeanor shifted significantly once he began his college journey. Initially, he would call weekly, bubbling with excitement about his new experiences and eager to share every detail of his academic and social life. Over time, however, these calls dwindled, and when they did occur, they were usually driven by his needs, requests for money or assistance, with little interest in how Mom and I were managing. On social media, Tom's life appeared vibrant and full of new adventures, images of parties and spring break escapades that were beyond my financial reach. This digital window into his world only highlighted the widening gap between us, a chasm I felt powerless to close. Whenever he returned home for the holidays, his time was mostly spent with old high school friends, leaving Mom and I on the periphery of his life. The strain between us peaked last week during Tom's college graduation, a milestone I approached with mixed emotions of immense pride and lingering sadness. To mark the occasion, I had scrimped and saved for months to afford a quality watch for him, reminiscent of a cherished gift my father once gave me. I hoped this watch would symbolize a rite of passage, a token of his transition into the professional world. The graduation ceremony itself was moving. I watched tearfully as Tom walked across the stage to collect his diploma. However, the subsequent celebration painted a starkly different picture. Tom was absorbed in his world of college friends and his new girlfriend, Megan, who barely concealed her disdain towards Mom and me. My attempt to present the watch was met with dismissal, leaving me to clutch the unopened gift, feeling both foolish and deeply hurt. Meanwhile, Mom, seemingly oblivious to the cold atmosphere, busied herself with boasting to anyone who would listen about Tom's impending success and his future role as our provider. Her pride was evident, but so was her detachment from the emotional current swirling around us at that moment. In the quieter corner of the bustling party, I stood alone, barely holding back tears. It was then that I accidentally overheard a conversation that would change everything. Tom was speaking with Megan and some friends, disparagingly referring to us as his loser family. He expressed eagerness to leave, start his new job, and cut ties with us completely, blaming us for holding him back. The pain of his words was palpable. I was stunned and heartbroken, unable to fathom how my little brother, for whom I had sacrificed so much, could feel this way about us. Reflecting on the countless nights I had stayed up late helping him with his schoolwork, and the many personal sacrifices I made to ensure he had spending money for college, his ingratitude cut deep. The following day, I confronted him, hoping for some explanation or apology. Instead, Tom reacted explosively, accusing me of being pathetic for giving up my life and claiming he never wanted that. He suggested that my actions were driven by jealousy of his success, aiming to guilt trip him. Our argument escalated, and soon, Mom intervened. Far from supporting me, she accused me of being dramatic and instructed me to stop bothering Tom. She urged me to be happy for him rather than tarnishing his significant achievement. This left me reeling, trapped in a fog of disbelief and despair, questioning the worth of my past sacrifices. Was my dedication to family a colossal error? Should I have chosen a path focused more on my own life and aspirations? Days passed in a blur as I entertained thoughts of the life I might have led had I continued my education. Would I be a practicing psychologist now, traveling the world, forging new relationships, maybe even experiencing love? Instead, at 29, I found myself without a degree, entrenched in a job that led nowhere, my youth slipping through my fingers. I felt invisible to a mother who didn't seem to value me, and a brother ashamed of our family. The idea of leaving it all behind began to take hold, imagining a fresh start somewhere far away where I could prioritize my own needs and happiness. Yet, thought of abandoning Mom, particularly if her health deteriorated, plagued me with guilt. Torn between obligation and the desire to seek my own fulfillment, I wrestled with the decision. Why continue sacrificing for those who seem to scarcely acknowledge my contribution? I find myself at a crossroads, unsure of my next steps. Am I simply overreacting, or is it time to prioritize my own well-being after years of putting others first? I feel isolated and uncertain, grappling with whether to mend relationships with Tom and Mom, or to choose a path that focuses on my personal growth. After reading the supportive comments on my original post, I felt encouraged and gained some perspective on my situation. Driven by the advice I received, I resolved to confront the issues directly by having a candid discussion with both Mom and Tom. I meticulously planned what I would say, striving to articulate my feelings clearly and without accusation. I invited Tom over for a family dinner, hoping that a peaceful setting and Mom's favorite lasagna might create a conducive environment for reconciliation. As we gathered around the dinner table, I gathered my courage and shared my feelings of hurt and neglect. I outlined the numerous sacrifices I had made, dropping out of college, missing vacations, losing touch with friends, and forgoing romantic relationships. I expressed how their recent actions made those sacrifices feel futile and unappreciated. However, the conversation quickly soured. Mom immediately became defensive, interpreting my words as an attempt to induce guilt over her illness. She retorted sharply, reminding me that she never asked me to sacrifice my education and accusing me of trying to blame her for circumstances beyond her control. She compared her situation to her own mother, who cared for her sick father for years without complaint. Tom's response was equally disheartening. Initially silent, he simply fidgeted with his food, his expression one of annoyance. When I finally confronted him about the hurtful comments I overheard at his graduation, he offered no apology or denial, confirming my worst fears about his feelings towards our family. This lack of empathy from both made me question whether my efforts to bridge our divides could ever be successful. Tom's response to my confrontation was dismissive and cruel. "Well, it's true, isn't it? You are kind of a loser," he said, looking me straight in the eye. I was stunned by his bluntness and asked how he could say such things after all the support I had given him throughout his life. He merely rolled his eyes and accused me of starting another guilt trip. Mom, rather than defending me, dismissed my feelings, suggesting that I was being overly sensitive and that Tom hadn't meant his words to be taken so harshly. However, Tom's expression told a different story. He clearly meant every word. He began to boast about his achievements, his college degree, his job offer, and his plans to move to the city. Comparing his life to mine, he pointedly asked what I had accomplished, highlighting the fact that at nearly 30, I was still living at home and working as a secretary. His words cut deep, and I couldn't hold back my tears, overwhelmed by the stark contrast he painted between our lives. Amidst my sobs, I reminded him of all the ways I had supported him over the years, from academic help to personal sacrifices like buying him clothes for college when our mom couldn't afford it. I questioned if any of my efforts had meant anything to him at all. Unmoved, Tom abruptly stood up, declared he was done with our toxic family drama, and announced his plans to move out the following week. He then left, his dinner untouched, effectively putting an end to our conversation. After Tom's departure, Mom turned her frustration towards me. She accused me of being selfish and trying to make everything about myself, ignoring her struggles with her illness. She even suggested that I was attempting to turn Tom against her and coldly proposed that if I was so unhappy, perhaps I should leave as well. Devastated, I spent the night at my best friend Kelly's house, who has been a steadfast support system since high school. Despite the late hours, she listened patiently as I cried and poured out my frustrations. Her presence was a comforting reminder of the few constants in my life. The next morning, feeling somewhat clearer but still unsettled, I returned home with the decision made. I would move in with Kelly temporarily to sort out my thoughts and plan my future steps. The sight of me packing triggered a desperate reaction from Mom. She began to cry, fearfully questioning how she would manage without me. She even invoked my father's memory, suggesting he would be disappointed by my decision to abandon the family. Her words briefly made me reconsider, but her next accusations of my ingratitude after all she had supposedly done for me only reaffirmed my decision. It became painfully clear that staying would only prolong a cycle of guilt and resentment, pushing me further from any chance at personal happiness. Reaching my breaking point, I firmly told Mom that I was leaving. Despite her attempts to manipulate me with warnings about her health deteriorating in my absence, I stood resolute. I suggested she explore options like hiring home health aides or seeking assistance from her sister. Her reluctance to trust others to care for her as I had was no longer a burden I could bear. Packing my belongings was an almost dreamlike process. I stumbled upon old psychology textbooks and photo albums depicting happier times, which made the pain of the present even more acute. Since moving to Kelly's place about a week ago, my phone was bombarded with messages from Mom, some angry and reproachful, others desperate and pleading. For my own peace, I decided to block her number. Meanwhile, Tom hasn't made any effort to contact me. The simplicity of Kelly's apartment contrasts sharply with the complexity of my previous life. Adapting to this new normal, having free evenings without the urgency of home care or chores, feels both strange and liberating. Despite occasional pangs of guilt, a newfound sense of relief is washing over me, reaffirming my decision to prioritize my needs. I've begun exploring options to resume my education at a local community college, and I'm contemplating a job change to align more closely with my passions. Furthermore, Kelly introduced me to her yoga class, an activity I could never have fitted into my past hectic schedule. This transition at 29 is daunting yet thrilling. The path of healing and self-discovery lies ahead, and I'm learning to redefine my identity beyond my role as a caretaker. For the first time in many years, I harbor genuine hope for what the future holds, inspired by the supportive community that encouraged me to embark on this journey. Thank you all once again for the encouragement that spurred this pivotal change in my life. I promise to keep you updated as I continue to navigate this new chapter. Update 2. It's been a month since I left Mom's house, and I'm compelled to share how life has unfolded in the refreshing company of my friend Kelly. Living with Kelly has brought a much-needed serenity to my life. We've established a comforting routine of cooking dinner together and watching movies on weekends, which has rekindled the joys of close friendship that I had missed deeply. This period has been crucial for personal reflection, allowing me to focus on what I truly want for my future. After years of neglecting my own needs for the sake of others, I'm learning to prioritize myself without the burden of guilt. One significant step forward has been enrolling in 2 community college courses, Intro to Psychology and English Composition. Returning to education has been exhilarating. The classroom feels like a rediscovery of my long-suppressed academic ambitions. Upon entering my first class, I was anxious about being the oldest student and whether I could adapt after such a long hiatus. However, those fears quickly dissipated when I saw the diverse ages of my classmates, including many who were older than me. My previous experiences managing a household have unexpectedly honed my academic skills, making me a more focused and disciplined student than I was in my early 20s. Engaging with psychological theories has reignited my passion for the subject, and the support from my professors has been instrumental in easing this transition. I've also formed a study group with classmates, which has proven invaluable for both academic support and social interaction. Balancing work, studies, and a burgeoning social life presents a new type of challenge. This stress is about growth and aspiration rather than mere survival. Additionally, I started therapy to navigate my complex feelings about my family dynamics. My therapist has been pivotal in helping me establish boundaries and bolster my self-esteem. Our sessions explore the reasons behind my familial sacrifices and how I can continue caring for others without losing myself. The situation with my family remains strained. Mom continued to reach out with a mix of guilt-laden and angry messages, oscillating between accusing me of abandoning her and pleading for my return. Despite the difficulty, I have upheld my decision to not respond, maintaining the boundaries necessary for my mental health and personal growth. The flood of messages from my family finally ceased. Recently, Tom reached out not to offer an apology, but to request my help with moving some furniture for Mom. I politely refused and suggested he assist her instead. His response was fraught with anger, accusing me of selfishness. I chose not to engage further and blocked his number, reinforcing my commitment to maintaining boundaries. Last week, I encountered Aunt Rachel at the grocery store. Growing up, she was like a second mother to me, and our bond has always been strong. Nervously, I shared with her the reasons behind my lack of communication with Mom. To my relief, Aunt Rachel was not only understanding, but supportive. She reflected on her own similar experiences and the importance of setting boundaries for one's mental health. She acknowledged the unfair expectations placed on me since childhood and expressed her awareness of Mom's complaints about my supposed abandonment, reassuring me of her support. Aunt Rachel also offered to take on more responsibility in caring for Mom, which eased some of my burden. It was heartening to know someone in the family recognized my struggles and was willing to help. In terms of my career, I've taken proactive steps by applying for an entry-level HR position at a local nonprofit. The interview went well, and I am optimistic about receiving an offer. This job would not only offer better pay, but also presents an opportunity for career growth that involves work that I find meaningful and aligns with my interests. Emotionally, I'm navigating a mix of cautious optimism and residual guilt. There are nights when worries about Mom's well-being keep me awake, but I remind myself of the significant improvements in my own health and happiness since prioritizing my needs. This affirmation helps balance the scales of my emotions, reinforcing my decision to focus on my personal growth. Rediscovering and pursuing old and new passions has become a joyful aspect of my life. Over the weekend, Kelly and I went hiking, an activity I loved but had abandoned due to time constraints. The freedom to engage in such simple pleasures has been liberating and is a reminder of the joys I had sacrificed in my years of caretaking. The road ahead is long, filled with challenges as I work through years of codependency and strive to rebuild my life. Yet, I am committed to this journey regardless of its difficulties. For the first time in a long time, I am excited about the future and the myriad possibilities that lie ahead. I am embracing this process of healing and self-discovery, hopeful about what the future holds. I'm learning to trust in my own decisions even when they are challenging. I truly appreciate all the support and advice I've received. It has empowered me to embrace these changes. I'll keep everyone updated with any significant developments. Update 3. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to share a final update on my journey. It's been 3 months since I moved out, and my life has transformed significantly. I am thrilled to announce that I secured the job at the nonprofit organization where I've been working for about a month now. The role is both challenging and fulfilling, perfectly intertwining my interest in psychology with my duties helping underprivileged youth. It's refreshing to work in an environment where my efforts are acknowledged and valued. Academically, I'm still progressing well at community college and am on track to earn my associate's degree next year. My plan is to transfer to a 4-year university to pursue a bachelor's degree in psychology. The balance between work and school is demanding, yet I find myself invigorated by the challenges. It's a motivation I haven't felt in years. Living with Kelly has been a wonderful experience. Our friendship has grown even stronger. She encourages me to socialize more, and recently we attended a meetup for young professionals where I made some great connections. It's been liberating to rebuild my social life and learn to enjoy myself without the shadow of guilt. On the familial front, the situation remains complex. Although Mom has ceased direct contact, she continues to cast me negatively to other relatives and friends. It's painful, but with my therapist's help, I'm learning to manage these emotions and maintain strong boundaries. Meanwhile, Tom has moved across the country for his job. He reached out with a parting message, which I chose not to answer. Reflecting on our once close relationship brings a mix of sadness and acceptance of the fact that I need to see him for who he is now, not who I wish he could be. Aunt Rachel has been a tremendous support, regularly checking in and offering encouragement. Her involvement has been a significant positive in my life, helping me navigate through these times of change. As I continue to grow and adapt, I am filled with hope and excitement for what lies ahead, grateful for the chance to explore new possibilities and redefine my path. Aunt Rachel recently told me she's proud of the strides I've made in advocating for myself and implementing positive changes in my life. It's incredibly reassuring to have at least one family member supporting me. Last week, she invited me over for dinner, and to my surprise, Mom was there too. It turned out that Aunt Rachel had set up the meeting hoping we could reconcile. Initially, I was hesitant and considered leaving, but I chose to stay and engage in the conversation. The atmosphere was tense at first. Mom appeared visibly aged and worn, which momentarily stirred feelings of guilt within me. However, I quickly reminded myself of the reasons behind my departure. As the evening progressed, Mom began to open up. She acknowledged that she had taken my efforts for granted and expressed fear of losing me entirely. She also mentioned that she had started attending therapy to address her own issues. While our relationship is far from healed, the evening marked a small yet significant step forward. I proposed that we could try brief, structured visits under Aunt Rachel's supervision in the future. Mom agreed, albeit with a touch of sadness. This decision has helped me maintain my boundaries without harboring as much resentment as before. My focus remains on my own healing and shaping the life I envision for myself, one where I can prioritize my needs without feeling selfish. The journey ahead is still filled with challenges. I am learning to balance my own needs with the responsibilities of caring for others in a way that is healthy and sustainable. Part of this process involves forgiving my family while ensuring they do not take advantage of my generosity again. I am prepared for the mix of good and bad days that this process will inevitably bring, but I feel confident that I am on the right path. I take great pride in the courage it took to initiate these difficult changes. I am optimistic about the future and eager to see where this new chapter leads. I hope sharing my story will inspire others in similar situations to take steps toward prioritizing their own happiness and well-being. Remember, it's never too late to start making yourself a priority.